Rise, don't be afraid to fly. If you ain't living, you're only dying. You can't see the light, you're not trying. Come on and open up your eyes.
Hello and welcome to Leadership Therapy, where we bring calm to the corporate chaos. I'm your host, founder of Zen Leader, Dr. Jodi Blinco. Now, before we start unboxing the chaos of professional life, I want to provide you a quick disclaimer. I'm not a certified therapist. If you're looking for a clinical diagnosis or a prescription, that's not me and that's not here. When I say the word therapy in leadership therapy, think of it as a mental sanctuary for your overworked brain. This is a space for everyone who keeps the wheels of their industry turning, whether you're in the C-suite, the middle management trenches, the technical workshop, or the front lines of service. This is about the therapy of taking a minute for you to ground yourself, move through the fear of that looming deadline, and gain the clarity needed to take action. So if you've found yourself in a quiet corner, or you're behind a locked office door to avoid the next conversation about strategic synergies, or you're decompressing on the drive home, or maybe you're on the way to work, sit back, relax. You are safe here. Let's get going. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Leadership Therapy. How have you been? Have you been implementing some of the concepts that we've been talking about? Have you been able to calm a little bit of the daily chaos? I know it's there. We're all feeling it. This world, crazy world that we're in these days, I think there's plenty of chaos for us to practice on. So my hope for you is that you are finding a little bit of peace. You are finding a little bit of calm. And what we're going to talk about today, I think, I know I have found in my coaching work that it's extremely common for individuals to struggle with this in the day-to-day, both at work and at home. I've definitely struggled with it myself and have to do some self-coaching sometimes day to day to be able to move myself through it so it doesn't impact my peace, my mindset, my performance. And that concept is because we have all sorts of things happening around us, the majority of it not within our control. And I think a lot of times those pieces of our day to day that we don't have control over can be triggering, can create a lot of emotions. And especially if we have a tendency to over personalize things, which I think is natural in human nature. Things that are happening around us that may have nothing to do with us can create all sorts of emotions. A lot of times, those emotions most of the time aren't positive. Of course, there can be positive impact from things happening around us, but I would say the majority of the time when people come to coaching sessions, when I myself have to work through this or coach myself through it, it's usually something has happened and it's creating a negative emotion, frustration, anger, hurt, fear. I think there's a lot of fear happening around us nowadays because of so much of the unknown. And I think when there's a lack of knowing, human nature is we become potentially afraid. And so that fear looks differently on everyone. I would encourage you to think about, what does that look like for you? How do certain emotions show up for you in the day to day? And so what I want to talk through that I think, again, is very real for us is recognizing if we've had a situation recently where maybe someone that we work with or work for, it can be a decision that indirectly or directly affects you, or maybe is not even in your sphere at all. But notice where those emotions come up for you and what you have a tendency to do when it's not directly within your control. Do you have a tendency to shut down, to become angry, to act out, to, um, I don't know, show up in a different way. And again, thinking about reflecting and thinking for you, what do these emotions look like for you in the day to day? And how does that detract from your peace? You've heard me say often, your peace is a prerequisite for your performance at work and at home. And so becoming aware of our own patterns, our own emotions, when we don't have control over the majority of things around us, we have 100% control over how we react, how we respond. The narrative or the story that we tell ourselves in our mind, that's where your power is. That's where your control is. And so that's encouraging you to reflect on what emotions do I find myself getting stuck in? What kind of emotional chaos do I find myself getting wrapped up into when something has happened that I don't have control over? Being willing to hold up the mirror, look in the mirror, be aware, be self aware of what's happening is super empowering because it gives you an opportunity to redirect that energy, redirect that emotion, and it might not be right away, but find some sense of peace in that space. So when we can tap into that sense of self-control and self-awareness, we are giving ourselves a gift in a sense because when our brain has an understanding of where can I have influence over this situation, I would say 99.999% of the time, it's going to be inward in your heart, in your brain, in your thoughts, and your energy and the way that you are processing whatever's happening around you. So one, that self-awareness of what happens, how do you react when you're faced with the unknown, when you're faced with something that happens outside of your control, what is your response? And what does that response either offer to you or take away from you related to your peace, your performance, your best self? And again, this can apply to at work and at home. The flip side of understanding these patterns, and this one took me a really long time to build up the muscle memory, but when I did, it really was a game changer, and I'll use the term shape shifter, and definitely an energy shifter for me when I started to be able to analyze my own patterns, my own behaviors, but also use that skill to analyze the patterns and behaviors of those around me, those I worked for, those I worked with. And this is something that I talk a lot in my coaching with folks who are frustrated by someone they work with, work for, work around, work in teams, because again, someone else's behavior is not within your control, and they are going to act and behave and do whatever they're going to do. And I think human nature is we want to judge that to sometimes make ourselves feel better. We also want to grasp at that and make that other person wrong or right or whatever label you want to put on that, to again create some sense of or illusion really of control. And my thought for you and my offer to you is when that emotion comes up, step one is to look in the mirror, handle yourself first. Then, because that individual or individuals are going to keep living their life and behaving the way that they're going to behave, and you have zero control over that, your power in that situation, because you're developing the skill of analyzing your own behaviors, you have the capability now to start analyzing the patterns of behaviors of others and read that as data. I'm going to say that again. I'm talking to you. Do you hear me? Be able to As you're assessing and practicing that skill of analyzing your own behaviors, you are going to be able to channel that eventually outward and analyze the behaviors of others and view it as data. When that shift starts to happen, less and less and less and less do you start to take those behaviors personally. Because if you look at it as data, for example, so and so did this thing again, or didn't do this thing again, or didn't follow through. And I'll tell you, lack of follow through is drives me crazy, has driven me crazy for years. But not everybody follows my rules, right? Not everybody's going to follow your rules. They're your rules. It's your life. It doesn't mean other people have to follow the same rules. And in fact, they're not going to. They're going to follow their own set of rules. And the more that feeds into your emotions, your energy, the more that you let that into your day-to-day piece, the only person that that's affecting is you. And so this tool of being able to analyze others' patterns and behaviors as data starts to remove the charged feeling from the response. If you can look at a situation and go, yep, so-and-so didn't do what they said they were going to do again, the data starts to stack up. And if you think of it as odds, and I know nothing about betting or odds or any of that stuff, but that's what starts to happen. Odds become in favor that data tells you this individual, because every other time, or 95% of the time, this individual has behaved this way under these circumstances. When they show up that way again, one, over time, the more you practice this, the less you take it personal, because it's not most of the time. The less you take it personal, and the more that you can prep yourself for what is very likely going to happen. Because that individual, those people, whatever scenario shows up most for you, those individuals are playing out their own narrative. And the power is your own self-awareness for your own patterns. And then this tool of being able to analyze the patterns of others around you as data. Therefore, it doesn't have to be emotional. It doesn't have to be personal. It just is. And here's the other thought, and I'm not saying this is easy to do. This is one that, again, I mentioned earlier, I have to do my own self-coaching, but no one's going to do that for you. And so that self-coaching is a very real part of life. To protect your own peace, to calm your own chaos. Because there will always be someone, somewhere, and it doesn't matter if you change jobs, change teams, change leaders. I think there's a saying that says, the lesson will keep showing up. Different person, different job, different place, until you open up and decide you're going to learn it. And the value in all of this is it actually serves you. And so maybe that's another perspective shift here, is allowing yourself to open up and take ownership and look inward and identify, what are these patterns for you? What are the patterns that trigger you from other people? And what is your opportunity to grow and stretch and learn from what's put in front of you in the day-to-day? That's really, life is a giant classroom. And the people around you are, if you want to look at them that way, they're teachers in their own right, providing you with tons and tons and tons of opportunities for you to grow and things for you to learn. And so all of these little small perspective shifts allow you to greet the day, the unknown, the people as data. It's just information. And information allows the emotionally charged response to lessen, to fall away, to not be personalized, so that again, you can maintain that sense of peace. But that requires you to step in, you to own your stuff, own your own shit. It's much easier to always point the finger and look outward. Always easier. I feel this way because so-and-so didn't follow through. I feel this way because fill in the blank. Data doesn't get mad. Data just is. Human beings bring emotion to everything. And I think the opportunity here is for you to think about, what emotion am I bringing when things don't entirely go to my narrative, when things don't go to the rules that I have written for everybody else, because it's not always going to be that way. In fact, the majority of the time it's not. Last thing I will offer you here, and this one can be tough. As you continue to practice looking at people's behaviors just as data, the next layer to that is being able to also offer compassion, removing judgment, by looking at that person as just another human being walking through the day-to-day, regardless of title, salary, experience, tenure. In the grand scheme, none of that really means anything other than they have been appointed with a title and a sense of responsibility. It doesn't always mean people are prepared for those roles. And that's not looking negatively on anyone. We're all moving through our own preparation and development every single day. But I think when we look at certain titles, we have an expectation that goes with that. And I'm not saying that's wrong. But that individual in that seat, or those individuals in those seats, or the people next to you, or the people that work for you, they're just human beings. And they're just human beings that have their own shit, their own stuff every single day, just like you do. Putting one foot in front of the other, consciously or unconsciously. And I like to think, I like to move through life assuming the best of others. It doesn't do me any good not to. So assuming that they are doing their best every single day, because the reality is, even if they're not, I don't have control over it. So being able to look at others through a lens of human compassion, regardless of whether or not they're meeting your narrative. So 3 takeaways here. 1, look in the mirror first. Analyze your own behavior. Analyze your own responses. 2, be able to look at the behaviors of others as data. That lessens the emotional charge. It lessens the personalization. It lessens the amount of chaos that you feel in your mind and your body and your spirit. And it keeps you in that place of peace that we talk about. And 3rd, being able to look at that individual or individuals as a human being that's doing the best they can, moving through life just like you are. As we're wrapping up, I want you to repeat this to yourself. I invite you to repeat this to yourself. My peace is a prerequisite for my performance. Your well-being isn't a distraction from the work. It is the work. Remember, the world needs you to be whole, not a hollowed out version of yourself holding a title and a salary level and all the material things that we make mean success. The world needs you whole and your complete energy. I'm your host, founder of Zen Leader, Dr. Jodi Blinco. Thank you for listening to Leadership Therapy, and let's create that calm in the chaos. As we wrap up this session of Leadership Therapy, remember this: your peace is a prerequisite for your performance. At Zen Leader, we help leaders and companies bring calm to the corporate chaos by integrating leadership development and holistic wellness. We provide the tools to conquer stress, manage burnout, and achieve sustainable, real results and performance that positively impact the bottom line. Is your team ready to truly level up? Visit www.zenleader.org today. Explore our tailored coaching opportunities. And ladies, we have a Zen Leader Masterclass specifically designed for you, the female who is ready to thrive and level up and maintain her peace amidst the chaos. Zen leaders, your well-being isn't a distraction. It is the work. If you're ever confused about where to start, just remember transformation begins within. Ask yourself, how can I be the leader I would follow in all parts of my life? Thank you for listening. I'm Dr. Jodi Blinco, and I look forward to staying connected with you along your journey. Until next time, take care.
Well, there's a sun on the horizon, but there are ghosts in the machines. There are people riding trains with their faces buried in magazines. And the scene outside the window is a world they'd rather not know. That's just passing them by. Not just 'cause you wake up in the morning don't mean you're not asleep. It's 'cause you heed all the warnings don't mean that you can't leave. See, in life you get decisions, you got to hang tight to your ambition. You gotta keep on aiming high.